Okay, hello everyone, and thank you for attending our webinar. And today we will show you the introduction to the Salesforce Developer Experience support in the Welkin Suite IDE. My name is Vladimir, I'm head of product at the Welkin Suite, and today I will show you all the new stuff that we have brought as a part of the SFDX support. And I won't show you any cool slides, I will just in 3 minutes switch to the IDE and start doing all the demonstration. However, I will just highlight that in the next about 30 to 40 minutes, we will go through all of the new features in the IDE, and we will also highlight everything that you might use from the existing features in the IDE with your SalesforceDX projects. At the end of this webinar, we will have a Q&A session, of course. So if you have any questions, just like in course of our webinar, please feel free to ask them in the questions pane, and at the end of the webinar, I will be happy to answer all of them. In case if I, for example, won't have enough time to answer all of these questions, we'll answer all of them a bit later by the email. So let's start. First of all, what is SalesforceDX? I hope that most of you have heard about it, but I'll just say about a few words about it. So SalesforceDX, it's a thing that we were waiting for at least a year, using all of the promises from Salesforce. And we were expecting that SalesforceDX support will completely change the way how we can develop for Salesforce. It will bring our developer experience much closer to what we have and what we've used to in .NET world, in Java world. So we won't have that organizations which are directly tied up with our source codes. In the case of SalesforceDX, we are talking about the source code, which is the main thing that defines our projects. It's not only organization, it's your source code, it's your Git repository, it's your continuous integration, it's your continuous delivery. This means that we have much more options in terms of IDE as well to allow you to work with this new approach. And as some of you might know, in the regular Salesforce project in the Welkin Suite, your source codes were completely tied up with the Salesforce organization because we were depending on many information from the org, and we were storing all of it right in the project file. This is why, as a part of the SalesforceDX support, we have introduced new type of projects. So in case if you want to just complete a trailhead or to play and try it yourself how to work with SalesforceDX, in the Welkin Suite you need to go to File, New, Project, and here you have a new section, SalesforceDX Project, and select DX project. Name it somehow, and press OK. After that, you can specify the template that is provided by the SalesforceDX command line interface. You can specify a namespace, for example, if you are developing an AppExchange package and you want to check everything together with your namespace, or you can leave everything as is and just select the default package dir. But you can even don't change this field and press next. Under the hood, as you can see right now, there is a progress bar, we are doing something, but under the hood, most of the actions for SalesforceDX are dependent on the SalesforceDX command line interface. This means that most of these things you can do in the command line, but instead of remembering all of that commands, instead of typing all of them and working with your code in a text editor, you can benefit of all of, or at least most of the things of the IDE without even knowing about the command line. So we have our project created, and by default the project created by the Welkin Suite, it's absolutely the same project as SalesforceDX CLI creates. In the Solution Explorer you can see the config folder with Scratch org's definition, you can see the default packaging directory with your artifacts and with a basic folder for the Lightning components. There is also JSON file definition for the project and README because it's a standard of the SFDX. And in general, that's it. It's your project. You can start working with it. You can create your code. But what if you need to do, if you need to work with Scratch organizations, or if you need to benefit from some other new cool features of the SFDX? Of course, you can open PowerShell or CMD, for example. So I can open PowerShell and start using SFDX, force or create, and do all of the stuff right here. Instead of this, we have built a great panel, which is the first step towards the organizations manager, which almost all of us were expecting, even from our side as a development team, We were planning to build some credentials manager for at least 2 years. And now with SFDX we already have it. So Organizations Manager is a new panel. You can open it from usual View menu, and it's shown somewhere here, Organizations Manager. In this panel you have two main sections: SFDX organizations, which stands for your development hub, for your Scratch organizations, and you have a section for regular organizations, where you can add your sandboxes, your DevWorks, your production environments, and use them later for deployment, for UAT testing, for user acceptance testing, for something else. So you can just store them here. In my case, in SFDX organizations, I already have a Dev Hub, which I've created a couple hours ago. However, I've just requested a new trial Dev Hub organization, so I would like to add it together with you to this Organizations Manager. In order to do this, I can right-click in the Organizations Manager, or I can do the same from the Tools menu. Here I select Add or Refresh Dev Hub. I need to select if it's production environment, sandbox, because we expect that Salesforce will provide an ability to create Dev Hub from sandboxes this year. I don't know if this will happen, but still let it be here. So it's a production edition, and let me, I don't know, webinar, Dev Hub. And I also want to make this organization default, but I'll explain this a bit later. I press Add Org, and after this IDE opens your browser and asks you to enter credentials using the, and then we will log in using the OAuth authentication. This might take some time because, again, SalesforceDX CLI is not as fast as we'd like to, but we see a great progress in this direction, so we hope that in some more releases all of these processes would be much faster. So I copy my username, I enter my password, press login, allow access for the SFDX CLI to this organization, and that's it. I can return back to my Welkin Suite instance, and I see that we have a new Dev Hub right here in the list. What does this mean? That it is default Dev Hub. It means that if I select here create Scratch organization, and if nothing is selected in the menu, it will create a Scratch org for the default Dev Hub. Or I can create a Scratch org right from here, just right-clicking on my Dev Hub. So if I want to start to play with my code, if you want to create some new code and show you all of other features, I need to create some organization to test it out and to show you everything. So I right-click on my Dev Hub and select Create Scratch Organization. Here we have much more options, and we'll stop here for a couple more minutes. So there is an easy way to create a Scratch organization. I'll show you it right now. So I enter alias, I select the option to make it the default organization, and I don't have any particular ideas or requirements for this organization to have, so I don't need it to have some features like person accounts, I don't need it to have charter enabled, I don't need any specific usernames. So I just want to have an organization to play around with it. So in the way to retrieve configuration file below, I select Create by Edition and select Developer Edition. Press Next and the process starts. So you just enter alias, you select Create by Edition and select your desired edition, and wait for 30-40 seconds while the organization will be created. At the same moment, the IDE calls the SFDX CLI, gets all the results, parses them, and provides you them in a bit more nicer way than in the command line interface. Also, as you can see, so the org was created, and right now we are performing force org display. This command in SFDX CLI returns us all the information about the org. So we just like to ensure that everything is okay and retrieve all the data for you. All done, the org is created, we see the ID username here, so I press finish. And immediately this org appears in the organization manager under the Dev Hub for which it was created. If I select this Scratch organization in this list, in the lower panel called Organization Details, we see all of the information that SalesforceDX CLI returns to us. So again, you don't need to do this via the command line. you have all the details right here on the panel. You see the access token, alias, client IDs, you see the dev hub, you see the instance URL, you can see organization ID. Once you generate a password, you see a password here, and you also see a username, because we will refer it in some places in the IDE. If I want to create another organization, let me show you a bit more complex way. So create Scratch org. Again, test 2. I can configure it manually, so once I select this option and press next, the IDE will show you the cool wizard which will allow you to specify all of the details of what exactly you would like to create in the organization. If you were attending the TDX 17 conference, we were showing you this part there, because we were working on it for a couple months already. And why this wizard is so great? Because it doesn't require you to know the JSON specific of the Scratch org definition file. You don't need to know what all the options are available for you. You just open this window, and in the nice and friendly wizard, you're able to configure everything that is needed for you in this Scratch org. So in my case, I need to enter the email. Let it be mine. Okay, let it be info. I can select country. So let it be US. For example, I need to select edition. Okay. Language, org name, username. I don't have any specific requirements here, so I skip these parts. After that, we have 2 blocks of checkboxes. First of them is org preferences. It's general preferences of the organization. As you can see, the checkboxes here are in 3 mode states, I'd say. So this one means that it's in the default state for the SalesforceDX. Unfortunately, not all the information is widely available in the documentation, so we are not able to provide to show you the default values for everything. We are just not aware about all of them for now. So in case if you don't like the default value, for example, if you want to enable chatter, you make this checkbox enabled. If you want to enable networks, if you want to disable, for example, translations, so you just go through all of these checkboxes and configure the org in the way it fits your needs. The last block here is add-on features, which are also allowing you to configure some of the settings for the organization. For example, enable AP, enable communities, enable custom apps, and so forth. You can also save these settings as a JSON file, so even if you are not planning to create the organization right now, you can configure this Scratch org definition file, save it somewhere, and share it with your teammates, for example. Put it into your Git repository, use it for the future needs. So it's just up to you. It's a great way to configure the Scratch organization in the IDE. In my case, I'm okay with the settings. I press next. And again, waiting for 30-40 seconds for it to be created. And 2 more options to select configuration of the Scratch org when you create it. The first one is to just directly specify a file like Scratch org JSON. For example, the ones that we were able to save in this wizard. And the second option is to use the default Scratch org definition from any of your opened project. So if a part of your SalesforceDX project you have modified the project Scratch definition JSON file and you'd like to use it for all of the organizations, you can just select the checkbox in the wizard and select your project as a source of the organization configuration. So our goal here was to provide you both very easy and straightforward way to create a Scratch org, as well as all of the most complex and advanced ways to create Scratch organizations. So we see we have succeeded with creation of the org, and we also see that the organization have just appeared in the Organizations Manager window. So what else options do we have here in the Organizations Manager panel? So for example, for my first organization, if for example you start passing the trailhead about the SFDX, there was one of the tasks or one of the steps there was to generate a password for the organization, so you would be able to install the AppExchange package. In the regular way, you can do this from the command line. In the Welkin Suite way, you can just right-click on the Scratch organization and select Generate a password. Once I press this button, we see a progress bar, and the IDE again executes all of the needed actions, parses all of the results, and generates a password. Once this is done, the information in the org's details panel will be refreshed, and you see your password right here. Again, it takes some time. So here you can see it has succeeded, and we have our password right here in the password pane. So in case if you want to log into this organization using the regular UI, you can copy this username, you can copy this password and get to the organization. Another option is to just right click on the org and open in browser. In just a couple seconds we will open your browser with this organization opened, and you will be able to modify something in the setup menu, you will be able to create records, you will be able to test out your code, your Lightning, your Visualforce. So whatever you are developing, you will see right here in the organization in just a couple clicks. And like here, no more extensions for Chrome browser which are storing all of your hundreds of passwords. Just right click, open in browser, and you even don't need to remember the password and username. So as you can see, we're in the organization, and let me maybe start with some basic configurations in the org. So in the setup menu, I go to Object Manager, I see standard objects, nothing else, so I decide to create a new object. Something very simple. Without any configurations, create. And also I would like to create a new field for this object, just for us to see that all is good and all is working. So once I create, let it be text field. Next. Next. Save. So it's regular organization, it's just Scratch org, but still you can do the same stuff that you are able to do in your dev orgs or as in your production organization. Once you have done some configurations in the Salesforce UI, for example, you can return back to the IDE and right-click on any of the Scratch organizations and select Pull Sources from the Scratch organization. So if you are familiar with the Welkin Suite IDE and if you have used it for regular projects, there was previously an option in the Solution Explorer to pull your changes. Right now there is no such option because the project itself is not tied up with any organization. You are able to pull sources from any of your Scratch orgs, from any dev hubs. So in my case, I will pull from this organization. It will take again like 10 to 30 seconds. And as a result, I expect to get back my object and the fields that I have created. So you can see that something is being updated in the project, in the Solution Explorer. And yeah, the cool thing and the main difference of the SFDX project in the Welkin Suite comparing to the regular one is that our project does not store any information, the project file itself does not store any information about the files in the project. So we are dynamically scanning and monitoring the folder of the project. And once anything is being added to the project, or if something is deleted from the folder, we are immediately reflecting this change in the Solution Explorer. So right now it's absolutely safe, and we just encourage you to do this, to put this project into your Git repository or into SVN repository, even TFS repository, and start sharing it with your team and work with it as a great approach from Salesforce. So what we see here, so right now in our Solution Explorer we see new layout, we see new field, we see new object, and we also see profiles. Cool. So all this stuff that I've done in the Salesforce UI have just appeared right here on my project. So let me then do it vice versa. And for example, I just right click on the default folder, create the folder for classes. And I'd like to create a new class. Let it be a regular class. I won't change its name. Yes. So unlike the regular process, we are not creating this file anywhere in the organizations. We are just creating a local copy of your file. And then it's up to you if you want to deploy it somewhere or if you don't want to do this. So it's just a regular class. Almost empty. Also, you'll create another class here. Let it be the unit test one. So test class 1. Done. So let me add at least one line of code here. System.debug something. And let my test class to test this constructor. So class 1. And then, 1 equals 1. That's it, I've done with my changes, and now I want to test them against some organization. What options do we have here? By default, again, if you remember, it's the main ID of the ID. You just need to press F5 button, and after that the ID will deploy your changes to the organization. So what will happen right now if I will press F5? The same. We will just deploy your changes to the default Scratch organization. So in the Organizations Manager, you can see your default Dev Hub and default Scratch org highlighted with bold color, like with bold font, sorry. And this means that all of the main actions which were previously tied up to the organization will be tied up to this Scratch org. So if I press F5, this means that this code will be deployed to the Scratch org 1. We see in output panel that process started. We again trust SalesforceDX CLI that they will do everything correctly because they are handling very much stuff regarding the deployments and pulling sources. We have build succeeded. So what I will do here, I return back to the browser and let me check if we have this class in the organization. So I go to custom code. Yeah, you can even see it here. So class 1 and test class 1. Yep, this is my test class. So everything is on the organization. And what I can do next? At the same time, I can deploy the same stuff to the test2 organization. So let me check it. I right click on test2 Scratch org and select an option to push sources to the Scratch org. So I've just deployed to the default one, for example, my default development organization. But if I have a separate branch or if I have a separate organization with some specific test environment, specific test data, I can deploy the same stuff there. Okay, seems to be okay. So what I'll do here, again, right click and open in browser. And you see that we even don't have a password for this organization. So there is no password. I don't know the username. I won't remember it. And I don't need to do anything. Again, right click, open in browser, and we are here. No, thank you. And you can see it here. So you can see the test object, you can see the class 1, you can see test class 1, you can even see my sample field. So all of the stuff that I have just done on the another organization using both Salesforce UI and my IDE, I have everything in just 1 minute on the another organization. The code is here, and as Scratch orgs will become somehow paid in Salesforce, and there will be some limit of the number of active Scratch orgs, I can just right click on the Scratch org and delete it. This will remove it from the SFDX CLI, this will remove it from the Organizations Manager, and it will also queue it for the deletion in Salesforce, so it will free up their resources and everyone will be happier. Should be good, I just need to refresh it. So let's move on and I'll show you another cool stuff. Give me a second. So we have a nice question from Vance I'll repeat the question. Under SFDX, Salesforce recommends structuring your code into projects and not putting all code into a single project. How would this work in Welkin? It will work great because it is the main thing why we were waiting for SalesforceDX. I hate the idea that we previously had to group everything together in the same project to have everything in one place. And I'm really happy that right now we can create multiple projects, we can create multiple Git repositories and store our source code in the different projects shared with different teams, with different people. So our approach here, we absolutely use SFDX CLI. So everything that is being done by SFDX CLI, the same works for the Welkin Suite. We use the same approaches, we have not invented our own wheel, we have just provided you great options to use nice UI and to use familiar features of the IDE with SFDX. So nothing specific here, the same will work in the Welkin Suite. So you can see that in my Dev Hub right now I don't have that test to organization. Okay, one cool question, and right now, yeah, from Michael. SalesforceDX support in TVS is currently for Windows only? Yes, right now it's just for Windows. It's, I'd say, our beta implementation of beta feature from Salesforce. We are waiting for your kind of feedback, for your ideas, for your impressions from the SFDX in general, from SFDX in the Welkin Suite. And a bit later, we will add support for Mac version as well. I won't say exact dates, but before the Dreamforce, it's for sure, maybe earlier. Like, we are not yet sure and we are thinking about switching it a bit earlier. So, okay, let's move on to other cool stuff here. The last, I believe the last cool thing about the SFDX support in the Welkin Suite is that we have added you a command line interface. So even if you would like to do something in the command line, if there is some functionality of SFDX that is missing in the IDE, or if you have installed some plugins for SFDX, you can always do the same stuff from the command line in the IDE. So there is a new panel called command line. I have it here enabled. I will open my project in File Explorer so I can get path to it. I will copy the path to the folder and switch folder, just for it to be here. After that, it's a regular command line interface as in Windows. So you can do SFDX force doc commands list, wait for a couple of seconds, depends on the response of the SFDX CLI, and you'll get all of the commands right here. And for example, again, if you are talking about, for example, Trailhead from Salesforce, if you need to convert your SFDX project to metadata sources to deploy it to your regular organization, for now you can do this using the command line in the IDE, but a bit later we will add all of the, let's say, common and essential features, essential tasks of the SFDX CLI to the organizations manager or to the other menus in the IDE, so you won't even need to touch the command line interface at all. Or if you just like it. In this case, it's up to you. So all of the stuff works here, and yeah, I just won't do something here, but you can see that it's regular command line, and in case if you need something, you can do it right here. There is an option to clear command line and to open a separate command line in a pop-up in a Windows command line interface. So what else cool here? So as most of us know, I hope that everyone knows that we have a lot of great features in the IDE, and due to the nature of this new project for SFDX, there was a huge number of changes required in the whole IDE. This means that not exactly everything is working for a SFDX project comparing to the regular one, but the most essential stuff is right here and you can use it. So for example, if I switch to the debug logs panel, you can see here instead of a project, you can see here a username. This username, it's a username of your default Scratch organization. This means that in the debug logs panel, in the code coverage panel, in the test results panel, and in all panels which depends on your project, you will see, in addition to your regular projects, you will see your default Scratch organization. In my case, if I even want to run a test result, I'll enable log files. And if I press Run Tests in Test Results panel, we will query test data from the Scratch organization. In my case, it's the Scratch org1. In my case, it's my unit test that I have created a couple minutes ago. So I'd like to execute it. I run tests. And as usual, as for regular organizations, you see your progress of the test run in the test results panel. As you can see, it was a couple seconds. You see your results right here. You can open a log file. You see your log file in the debug logs. In the code coverage, if I refresh the data, I can also see a code coverage information. So all of the regular stuff that you are always using in the Welkin Suite, almost everything is working right here. In case if you are switching to another organization, to another Scratch org to test some of your stuff, again we'll detect the change and we will immediately change the information in the test results, in the debug logs, in the code coverage. Additional thing here that I'll show you is the code completion. So for now, the code completion also requires some data and some information from the organization. For example, list of your objects, list of your standard objects, and we are doing here the same approach. Once you switch your default Scratch organization, in the background we are querying needed data from the Scratch org to show you it in the code completion. So from my test object, how it was called, here it is. So you can see here my test object, and in case if I will switch to another Scratch organization which doesn't have this object, you won't get it in the suggestions. And for now, so I'll also highlight a couple of other things which are not yet implemented for SFDX project. So one of them, it's a debugger, and another one is some of the cool features of the debug logs viewer. So for now you are not yet able to go to the source, and for now you are not able to use the debugger and Apex profiler for Scratch organizations. Why? Because our implementation is tied up to the IDs in the organization, and as they are always changing in your Scratch organizations, we are not yet able to track this properly. However, I believe that in couple releases we will return back the debugger, we will return back your go-to source, and lots of other stuff. Another thing that for Lightning development, you can also create a new Lightning component. So add new item, select Lightning application bundle, press next, and after that we'll create a new Lightning bundle here. So you'll have our regular Lightning editor with the code completion, with tabs, with everything except of the previewer for now. It's almost ready, and I believe that in 1 or 2 releases it will be back, but for now there is no previewer yet. Please, sorry for this. So that was a kind of general highlight of how to use with SalesforceDX in the Welkin Suite. And what I want to show you, I'd like to invite all of you to the next webinar, which will happen in exactly 1 week, just 1 hour earlier. It will be learning SalesforceDX together with our team. It will be again myself, maybe someone from our team as well. And we will show you how you can use SFDX. So not only the features of the IDE, but we will go through the trailhead in Salesforce. We will show you some nice ideas how you can switch your current projects to the SalesforceDX. And we hope that we will learn SFDX together with you, and we will show how you can very easily switch to it and start enjoying SalesforceDX. So I invite all of you to this webinar. We will send you a link to this webinar shortly after the this presentation, or I can just copy paste it and I'll put it to the chat in the GoToWebinar. So I've copied the link to the chat, and yeah, I will be really happy to see all of you in this webinar. And now I will stay here for another 10 or 15 minutes, and I will be happy to answer any of your questions. In case if you run out of time, I will answer all of them a bit later. So thank you for your attention, and yep, looking forward to your questions. Okay, we have two very similar questions from Scott and Chris, and in general it's how to pull the code base from the existing organization to the Scratch org, and or kind of how to transform the regular Welkin Suite project into the SFDX one. So the very quick answer and the easiest way to do this would be just to create a new DX project and copy paste everything from SRC folder. So like in my case, let me show you. So I have my SalesforceDX project. I will open it in Explorer. I will go to the Force app, main, default, and here I have all of my sources. At the same time, I will open another instance of the Explorer. Another, thank you. So I go to the documents, I find the Welkin Suite. Not too much. I open some of my existing projects, I go to the source folder, and what I can do here for classes, for lightning, for many other types of the metadata, the easiest way would be just copy and paste. As I said, the ID will detect all of the changes, it will detect all of your classes, and they will appear in the ID as a part of the project. For objects and some other types of metadata, it won't be so easy. We'll need to think, like, to be honest, there might be some conversion methods or commands in the SFDX CLI. I'm not ready to say right now, but if you want, I can get back to both of you guys and in the email, or you can join the next webinar where I believe we will handle this question because it's a very important one. But objects, because they were decoupled by Salesforce itself, instead of one huge XML file with everything together there, they have separated fields, at least fields, from that file and put them as a separate folders or as a separate files. So objects you won't be able to transition in this way. And you can see that I switched back to the ID, and right now in my classes I have all of the classes. Yes, they all depend like to other objects or to some other stuff, and I won't be able to just press F5, it will return an error. But in case if you handle a way to deploy your objects to the Scratch org and pull it from there, everything will be very easy. So I'll try to get back to you guys today or tomorrow via email and to answer your question in a bit more details. Okay, cool question from Chris, and yep, we have not handled the situation. So the question is that in case of transforming the existing Welkin Suite project into SFDX1, if you have created your custom project structure, there is for now no good and easy way to transform this folder structure into something meaningful into the SFDX project, because in a SFDX project, again, there is no customizable project structure, but there are different packaging folders as a part of the project. So for now, we don't have a good solution for this, to be honest, but I believe that maybe at some point a bit later, maybe by winter 17, when Salesforce will release this GA, I believe that we will provide some kind of utility or built-in converter, which should allow you to easily transform your custom project structure from the Welkin Suite into a project structure of the SFDX project, so you won't spend your time on this and you won't lose your customizations. From what I remember, they don't support subfolders in classes, however, they allow you to make separation here. So for example, if I add another folder in the main, if I call it not default but something like UAT, and put there some other classes, objects or something else, like separated by functionality, like by artifacts, SFDX CLI will handle it. So in more details on these questions, we will stop on the next webinar. I hope you'll join and we'll have a nice discussion there. Okay, so thank you once more everyone for attending this webinar. I hope it was helpful, and I hope that all of you will try out the new features of the SFDX in the Welkin Suite at least in a couple of days. And I'm also waiting all of you on the next webinar next week, and I believe that it will be pretty interesting. Okay, last question from Chris once more. So from his understanding of SFDX, he can develop the code in multiple Scratch orgs with the same namespace, right? Yes, that's right. You can create different Scratch orgs with the same namespace. And I can just even try to do this very quickly to show you how you can do this in the IDE. From what I remember, let me just... And in the new project creation for SFDX, there is an option to select namespace. So if I put here TVS package, all the new Scratch orgs created while I am here in this project will be created with this namespace. At the same time, when I create a Scratch organization using the Organizations Manager panel, I can, in a configure manually option, I can select a namespace for this organization. Somewhere here. At the same time, I can create a Scratch org with no namespace, so it won't have anything even if I specify the organization namespace in the SFDX project. So I believe it was the last question for our today's webinar, and thank you once more everyone for attending this webinar and for your questions. And have a good day, evening, rest of your day, and see you guys. Thank you.